Many U.S. veterans are scrambling to get Afghan allies they worked alongside out of Kabul, our nation's longest war ending in chaos after the Afghan government fell quickly to the Taliban, leaving many of our veterans wondering what their sacrifice was really for. But this week, the nation's top military officer, General Mark Milley, answered that very question.
Every soldier, sailor, airman, Marine, Coast Guardsman who's fought or conducted operation in Afghanistan, almost 800,000, should hold their head high. For more than 20 years, we have prevented an attack on the U.S. homeland. I want you to know personally that your service mattered.
Well, I know our next guest service mattered. It's Paul Rieckhoff. He's the founder of Iraq and Afghanistan Veterans of America. He, of course, is a veteran himself. Paul, how important was it for General Milley to say that?
It was good talk, Stephanie, but now he's got to back it up. If General Milley and the president and this White House want to show that they really value the sacrifice of the millions of men and women who served since 9/11, they need to fix this humanitarian mess, level with the American people, and listen to us. I know the president's going to speak again soon because he needs to, because he's really lost the trust of so many Americans here, because he hasn't been straight with people about how bad it is on the ground. This is a humanitarian disaster. Now it's become a political disaster for him. And what he really needs to do is reset things. What happened to the old Joe Biden? What happened to the consoler-in-chief who understands empathy and can connect with people? He's been a very different person for the last week. He's dug in. He's been defensive. He's been deflecting. He's been blaming the Afghans. What we need now is a total reset and a plan for how to save our friends that are left behind. Then we'll believe him and others that they really value our service and that they're listening to us.
But Paul, no matter what he says, even if he says the right things, isn't your response going to be, I'll believe it when I see it? Because that's exactly what you just said about Mark Milley, who said the right things.
Yeah, and that looks like getting people out who were standing at the gate dying, right? Like there's been a bit lost here. We're not talking about the last 20 years. We're not talking about whether or not we should have invaded Afghanistan. We're talking about what the American government does right now to save tens of thousands of people, specifically interpreters who we made a promise to. And that promise is being broken. You have kids, Stephanie. I have kids. Imagine how bad things have to be for a mother to hand a baby over razor wire to a stranger. That is the reality you're seeing on your television. You've been showing on your network all week. But it's a reality that seems disconnected from this White House. What are they doing? Why are they dragging their feet? Why isn't every plane full? And why didn't we do this 4 months ago? That's what the American public needs to hear. And that's especially what American veterans need to hear. But it's not about us. It's really about a gut check for America and about the future and what's next. And that's what we need to hear from the president now.
I want to go back to 4 months ago, right? I have obviously never been to Afghanistan. When I read reports and I hear, thousands of Americans living there, non-military Americans, who are they? What are they doing there?
Well, they're people who stood alongside of us. They're interpreters. They're translators. They're contractors. They're people who worked on the bases. Some of them, there are American citizens that are still there, too, journalists that are still there. This has been a complete and total debacle. I supported getting out. So many of us supported getting out, but we didn't support getting out like this. It didn't have to go like this. And it's really, you hear the messaging out of the White House. It's starting to sound like the Bush administration in 2003. It's starting to sound like the response after Hurricane Katrina. They don't seem to understand that our inboxes are overflowing with friends who are over there right now who are stuck in what is kind of like, I've described it as a DMV line from hell. They can't get through the bureaucracy. They can't get through the paperwork.
Oh my gosh.
And if they don't get to the front of that line, they die. That's how high the stakes are right now, and Biden needs to show he really understands that.
With the Taliban going after them along the way. The government has said they did not expect the Afghan military to fall government so quickly. However, why wouldn't the government be working to get people evacuated over the last few months? It's not a surprise that we were pulling out.
That's exactly the right question, and that's what Joe Biden needs to answer. Failing to plan is planning to fail, and it's clear that this White House did not have an adequate plan to get out Americans, much less Afghans who were on the ground. So they need to figure out how they can do a reset here. And there also needs to be accountability. Like, who's going to be held accountable for these failures? If they didn't anticipate this, why not? The military is supposed to anticipate every possible contingency. If they didn't think it could go worse, they weren't watching your network, because me and plenty of other people were saying, hey, it could happen a lot faster than 30 days if they pull out like this, when they give up the airport, when they leave our equipment behind. And now our equipment's being used against us. So this is really, I think, the biggest catastrophe of the Biden presidency. It's going to haunt him because, most of all, it's breaking the trust. It's breaking the trust of the American people, and we don't know if we can trust him. So he's got to show us today that he can, and it's got to be more than talk. It's got to be action.
The DMV line from hell, except, of course, your life is at risk. Paul, always good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Your insights matter. You can catch the latest episode of Paul's podcast. It's an awesome one, Independent Americans, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you are a veteran struggling with your mental health, please, please know you are not alone. You are appreciated. And you can call the Veterans Crisis Hotline at 1-800-273-8255 and press 1, or text 838-255, or visit veteranscrisisline.net. We'll be right back.